Okay, let's get started. Again, my name is Megan Griffin with ACRL. We're here to talk about the ACRL 2020 annual conference program process. We're 6 months away, less than, from conference. And there's a few important things that happen from now until then, obviously. So we will go over some of those important steps, and I'll take your questions throughout the session as well as at the end. We'll have plenty of time for questions. Hopefully you received my email from last week with a few attachments, a few important documents like the timeline, of course our agenda for today. We'll talk about reimbursement procedures for your non-librarian speakers if you have any, and program reporter instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started looking at some of the documents. So again, our agenda today, a fond welcome for everyone for coming. If you can go ahead and type in the chat box what program you're representing today and what area of the world you're coming to from today, that would be great. There we go. Had trouble pulling up the chat there for a minute, so perfect. All right, Elizabeth from PPIRS, welcome, University of Georgia. ESS is here. Hi, Erica. Hi, oh, wonderful. I'm so glad you could tune in. Carrie from the University of Toronto, thank you. I'm glad you got the email. Perfect, Pittsburgh. Kennesaw State, University of Northern Florida, wonderful. LA, Cal State Northridge. Hi, Aubrey. Nice to hear from you again. Wonderful. Hi, John. AI Challenge. Perfect. Wonderful. Well, again, thank you all for being here. And I promise this will be short and sweet and hopefully full of what you need. And then we'll move on with our very busy day, as I'm sure it is for you. So let's talk a little bit about the timeline that we have. I actually just received a couple updates from ALA this morning that are indicated here in this document. I hope you can all see it all right. Essentially, they need some of our content a little sooner. We have historically had until March to make some edits as far as what your program description is and as far as the deadline to get your speakers in or whatnot. So as of right now, our speaker deadline has not changed from what you originally had. So February 15th is the deadline that we need all of your speakers and your moderator into the system. What that means is if you're an individual program presenter and you're the only one speaking at the session, you still need to submit your own information here. If you have other presenters along with you, please submit their information. If you're a unit program, all of your speakers need to be submitted here. If you have someone moderating that session, they also need to be submitted here. What happens is I go through and I look at all of this information, and depending on what type of speaker it is, they get certain speaker agreements. So that all gets processed after the February 15th deadline. That's also the information that I submit to ALA so that they have all your final speaker information on file. You know, sometimes when you submit your original proposal this summer with the early September deadline, you might have put in a few possible speakers, which is great, but things change. They might not still be speaking at your program. So this is how we double check that our speaker lineup is accurate. So just because you submitted some possible speaker names in your proposal does not mean that they will be listed in the online scheduler for your program unless you submit this SurveyMonkey link for each of your speakers. So basically, if you've got 4 speakers, you're just going to have to go to the link 4 times and submit it separately. If you can try and keep the information at the beginning uniform for your program, like who's the program contact, that would be great. That helps me narrow it down. Also, I've received a few description changes this week, which is super. So we do need to, although the deadline was yesterday for description changes, if you can please send them to me by the end of the week, if you still have some. Basically, ALA, believe it or not, we get started on the preliminary schedule here soon. So it would be great to have that information as quickly as possible, so we're not going up against any print deadlines. So moving into February, which is going to be here before we know it, the AV deadline has moved up. We've historically had an end of February deadline, and now I need everything by February 12th. So just to clarify, you're representing an approved ACRL program for the conference, which is amazing. It's a really competitive process. So with that, what ALA does is they put all approved programs in the convention center. That way, that's one location for attendees to go to for the content, for the professional development needs. So these program rooms are all kind of structured and laid out according to size and topic and content stream. So I met with them in October to go over some of these things and to look at any date and time conflicts you might have indicated on your program proposal. So essentially, all the rooms are slotted, and you should have received the room locations from me last week when I received them. Sorry, they're a little late. There were a few hiccups that they had to sort out. But basically, every single program is going to be set in a room that has a laptop and a projector and a screen and 3 microphones. And generally those microphones are a podium microphone, one table microphone, and then a floor microphone for questions. Due to budget restrictions, there can only be 3 microphones in the room. If you'd like to request, if you've got a certain need to adjust how those are spread out, let me know, and I'll see if conference services can accommodate that. If there's any accessibility issues that you know of, please let me know now so we can plan for that and have the right equipment there for you. So again, send me an email about anything like that. Otherwise, everyone will have the standard AV set, so you don't have to email me that you need a computer or you need a microphone or you need a projector, whatnot. Also, there will be internet in all of the rooms, so as soon as we have that Wi-Fi password, we'll send it on to you. I don't have it yet, but unless you're doing some souped up presentation full of like live streaming video files, things like that, the basic internet that we have set up will work. If you've got some other special situation, please let me know so we can figure things out for you. But otherwise, so also what this means is please be working now to get all your speakers confirmed, get them in the form. And then of course check with them to see if there's any sort of special AV need that they have, and let me know as soon as possible. So that's why it's good not to wait until mid-February to start on this process. And again, I'm sorry, I can't see the chat box right now, but I will be going back through your questions if you're typing questions. I'm glad to do that. So moving forward into March, again, I'll be taking all the information you submitted into that form and reaching out to all the speakers regarding their consent to speak at the session. So you will be copied, the program chair will be copied on every email to each of your speakers, which is, I will be using the information you submitted at the start of that SurveyMonkey form with who to copy on things. So don't worry that, I'll be contacting your speakers outside of your knowledge. You will always know what's going on. When I get consents from your speakers at that point in March, I upload them into ALA's speaker system. And from that point on, they populate the online scheduler. And they also will then contact those speakers about recording permissions. So some of you may know this already, but ALA tries to record as many of the programs as possible and include that in the virtual conference component. So what that means is every single program, the speakers will be asked to sign that consent. It's not a video feed. It's actually just their audio of their presentation lined up against their PowerPoint, their presentation files. So that is a really important component of the virtual conference, and we hope everyone will sign on. Please, when you're confirming with your speakers now, kind of give them a heads up that will be coming, to expect that. If even one speaker, if there's a few speakers on the panel, if even one speaker says no and does not give consent, then the program will not be included in the virtual conference component. So it's just something to keep in mind. Again, in March, we will also have a little outreach with any non-librarian speakers if you have them. And I'll be in touch about those changes, and we'll talk about the reimbursement document as well, which only applies to those types of speakers. Also, please be thinking about between now and then if you are going to have any sort of photocopying needs, handout needs on site. It's kind of rare that it doesn't really happen these days, but if so, if you send me the file in advance, I can have copies printed here at headquarters and ship them in our trunks to conferences for you to pick up on site. Or you're welcome to print your own and bring them, that's fine. It's just something we like to offer, but I do need to have any sort of photography requests by June 1. Earlier the better, but by June 1, so let me know if that applies to you. Also, another important duty for your program is to select a program reporter. We like to have a summary written up of every single ACRL program that takes place, and we actually print those in the September issue of CNRL News, ACRL's monthly magazine. So if you are on a unit program and have a full committee working on planning this session, please ask one of the committee members to be the reporter. What they need to do is email my colleague here at ACRL, his name is David Connolly, and let him know who your reporter will be for your program, and he'll send actually an author agreement to the person because it will be print and online, and we need that agreement. And then that person will just need to write up a short summary, and we'll briefly look at some of the requirements for that here in a second. But we need those summaries by July 17th, and that's because there, of course, is a press deadline for the September issue, which is in about a week later. So we need the person to be able to commit to, of course, notifying us who they are by June 5th. And then sending the summary by July 17th. So it's really important. We really try and have a program reporter for every single program. So please feel free to start inquiring about that now. Also, if you're an individual program, it's just you speaking, you're welcome to write a summary yourself, or if you've got a colleague coming to the session, please feel free to ask them to step in and take notes and write a summary. That's usually a good way to go. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Also, in April, we'll be, again, reaching out to any of your non-librarian speakers that are received a housing allotment to see if they would like us to submit their housing requests for them. So moving into May, we'll be working through an online evaluation that we'll prepare, and I'll send it out to you for review to make sure all of the facts for your program are accurate. And then ACRL actually prints a paper bookmark for the conference, and I ship those in the trunks, and I'll send a reminder to you closer. But what we ask is that one person from your program planning process, please go pick up that stack of bookmarks from the ACRL table in the ALA office in the convention center and pass them out at the program, because it's really one of the best ways that we have to get feedback on your session. And it's usually July deadline. I don't know if I said that yet. We haven't set that deadline yet, but it's usually July deadline for the responses, and then we tabulate all the data and send it back out to you later this summer so you can see what folks had to say about your session. All non-librarian speakers receive complimentary registration to the conference, so I'll be submitting that information for them once they submit their speaker agreement. So we need to have them in the system in order to do that. Please, in May, be following up with all of your speakers to confirm the date, the time, the location, answer any questions that they have. It's always better to do that in the month of May rather than in June as we get up closer to the conference date and I don't have as much leeway to make certain changes or requests with ALA conference services. So please be communicating with your speakers in April and May about those types of things. Also let your speakers know, I mentioned ALA will be reaching out to them about audio recordings, but that they will also be asked to upload their presentations in advance of the conference into the online speaker system. And this also relates to the recording, so that the company that manages this for the conference, they can have all the the PowerPoint files, handouts, whatnot, and be able to pair them with the audio that takes place on site. Let's see. Another important duty at your program is to actually take a head count at the program and email me that information. That's kind of the best way we have to track how many people are showing up to our sessions, so that would be much appreciated. If you can send me that by July 31st, that would be great. If there are any sort of reimbursements that you have with your speakers, they're all due to me by August 15th, and that is because the ALA fiscal year ends August 31st. So unfortunately, I don't have much leeway with that deadline either. That's why we need them by August 15th. If you can kind of remind your speakers at the session and soon after, because I know we roll into July 4th holiday and then it's a lot of vacation, wonderful vacation time. But I would hate to see a speaker not get reimbursed because we passed that deadline. So please just be cognizant of those timelines. I'd like to go ahead and pull up quickly the program reporter instructions that you received via email. Oops, excuse me. Perfect. So again, if you can have your program reporter contact my colleague David by June 5th to let us know who's going to be writing your summary, that would be great. And, you know, just no more than 300 words. Chicago style. If there's a photo, if someone can take a quick picture from your program of your speakers or whatnot, that would be wonderful. You can send that to David along with the summary. So hopefully this document answers your questions, but if not, feel free to reach out to me or David. He's done this for quite a few years for us, so he would be able to answer you very well as well. Let's talk about reimbursements, actually. Let me pull that document up. So if you have non-librarian speakers and you requested a budget with your proposal and were approved, these are kind of the guidelines for how that works. As I mentioned, if non-librarian speakers were offered a lodging reimbursement and they would like us to book their room, we can do that, and ACRL is billed directly, which is a nice thing. So we'll be in touch with you in April about that. If you have non-librarian speakers who were not given a housing allotment, but they would still like us to book their room, we can do that too. I would just need their credit card information, and we can submit that and get them in an ALA block of hotels with the ALA conference rate. Flights, all speakers need to book their own flights. The ALA per diem rate is $50 per day. Receipts are not needed for that. Here's some mileage rates. Important note about honorariums, if you offered that to any non-librarian speakers, is that those are sent the Monday after conference. I request those because I need confirmation from you that the speaker actually did attend before we send those out. So we get those requests to accounting right away. So you can let your speakers know if they're getting an honoraria and expenses, they're going to receive two separate checks because those expenses usually get submitted later by the speaker. But we do not send out honorariums in advance of the conference. Again, any sort of reimbursement needs a form with it. So here's the link to find that. And again, noting the August 15th deadline. So feel free to read through this. Let me know what questions might come up. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and get back to our room here and start looking through some questions. Feel free to pop those in at this point, and I'll just be going through the chat box. When you do post a message, can you make sure that it says to everyone? Otherwise, it's a private message, which I see as well, of course, but that way everyone can see your question. That way it'll go to everyone. So John's question, February 15th is the correct deadline. Is there a newer deadline? Oh, sure. So February 15th, please get your speakers into the ACRL SurveyMonkey link by that date. That would be much appreciated. The main deadline that was pushed up is our AV deadline. I really need all type of AV requests that are outside of what we talked about, that standard set, any sort of changes or special requests. I need those by February 12th now instead of February 28th. So that's a big change. And then I also need your program description changes, if there are any, as soon as possible. That deadline has been pushed up in February, which is noted in the timeline document that I will be emailing out to you after this session. I'll probably send it with the recording link, but that is definitely important to know. Also, related to description, I have what you submitted in the original proposal, and that's what we have on file as your program description. If that description is still fine and that's what you'd like printed and pushed out on the online scheduler, no need to send me anything new. It's only if you need to adjust it in any way, to please send it over so that I can get it uploaded in all the systems. Related to that, you may have noticed that ALA just launched the preliminary scheduler, that is essentially was only supposed to include programs, but I think there's a few other sessions in there. So just know I've already alerted them that only about half of the ACRL programs are listed in there yet. They haven't publicized the site to anyone yet, but it is live. So I just wanted to mention that we'll be spending the next couple weeks getting everything accurate and tagging all the correct units as needed if you're a section program or whatnot. So just know that if you've taken a look at that, no need to worry. I know it's not all right. So I am on it. We're going to get it fixed. ACRL staff also build a web page for our conference programs, and we will link directly to your program in the scheduler, and we'll be pushing out advertisements to that page a bunch this spring. So we will be promoting the scheduler for you. And most people don't start looking at the scheduler until April or so anyway, but just wanted to give you a heads up if you happen to glance at that site today. It's not entirely perfect. Question about the description? Yes, please send everything to me via email. There's no way to upload it into the proposal system anymore. That's closed out. And ALA is about to give me access to an admin side of the system so that I can update your descriptions and whatnot. And then they pull that information for the printed program book and for the online scheduler. So just funnel everything through me and I'll make sure it gets updated. That goes with for the idea if you have any sort of unit co-sponsorships and you haven't confirmed those via email with me, please send those to me. It's just if essentially another unit is going to be helping you publicize or another division within ALA and you want to list them as an in-name only co-sponsorship, just send me an email from that unit confirming that they are willing to be an in-name only co-sponsor for that program as soon as possible for that information. We actually kind of wanted it a couple months ago, but I can still make those edits. So just let me know. Standard AV works fine, but do we have to pre-submit our PowerPoints? So the short answer is no. You can actually submit them on site. If you can submit them as soon as possible, it's really appreciated because it's potentially thousands of presentations. Oh, it's definitely thousands of presentations that they're trying to link up and organize. So I believe they'll of course have a speaker ready room and whatnot in the convention center, which will be available. But if you can do it a couple days ahead of time, a week ahead of time, that would be great. So just something to keep in mind and let your speakers know about. Would you please repeat about comp registration for librarian speakers? Okay, so complimentary registration is only for non-librarian, non-ALA member speakers. That's the policy on the website. So librarian speakers can register for the regular conference rate at for the one-day registration or the full conference registration. The standard microphones. Yeah, so the standard microphone setup for a program is 3 mics. One is a podium microphone, one is a table microphone. There'll be a head table on the stage with the podium. And also one will be a floor microphone. So that, of course, is usually for audience questions at the end. So that's the standard set. John, yeah, exactly. So if you submitted your description in your proposal as everyone did, and there's no changes to it, you do not have to send me any sort of edit to your description. Your description's already in there as is, and as soon as everything launches live, it'll be included in there. So it's already safe in the system. So just feel free to send me any edits. Great question about where to submit your slides. So you'll be submitting those online. ALA has a speaker information portal that you'll start receiving confirmation about in April or so. But in order to be on that list of speakers to get that information, you'll need to have submitted those people, including yourself, into that SurveyMonkey link that we have in our timeline for that's called the speaker information form. That's coming to me and showing me everyone you're wanting to speak at your program and moderate at your program. So it's very important. That's the first step. So please do submit all your speakers there by February 15th. Earlier, if you can, that would be great. And then I take that information and send out consents to everyone because they need to consent to speak at the program. Once we have their consent, then that they get sent to ALA, and ALA can see who all the speakers are, and they handle the recording agreements. If you end up not having your slides done in advance, you should receive a link from ALA in order to do everything online, even if it's midnight the night before your session, or you can come on site. Again, all of the programs are going to be at the McCormick Place Convention Center here in Chicago, and they'll have a speaker ready room. But please do plan in advance. Don't come like an hour before your program. Try and come a little earlier just in case it's a busy time. Good question about the program description lengths. I haven't seen the 3. I know there are 2. There's usually a print program description, which has a word limit. It's usually 75 to 100 words or something, because that's what gets printed in the print program book. Obviously, they can't let the descriptions go on forever. The description that appears in the online scheduler can be, I don't even know if there's a word limit on it. It can be really long. We've had them 1 paragraph, we've had them 3 paragraphs. So that's what appears in the online scheduler, which, as you know, is what most of our attendees are using these days. So that can be longer if you want. I will have to check in on what the 3rd program description field requested was, because I'm not sure. I wonder if it's something, yeah, I'm not sure. That's a new one. So I think I've got through all the questions that I can see. If I missed your question, feel free to pop it in there again. I apologize. Otherwise, if there are any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions, and that's all I had for today. Again, if there are things that you'd like to talk about outside of this meeting, please feel free to reach out. Yes. So I will absolutely send out the recording link. It probably will be by tomorrow. We have to upload it to YouTube in order to have it be accessible. So I will send that out tomorrow along with the revised timeline document that I just shared here today so that you have the most current information. So the question about the room set. So yeah, actually 3 mics work great. This has been probably year 5 or 6 that due to budget cuts, they had to cut some AV budgeting. And so we've been on this 3 mic set for a while. Speakers, at the table may need to share. Other sessions are set up so that, only one speaker is speaking at a time. If you want to bring part of the floor mic up to the stage, that's fine. Unfortunately, they won't increase past 3. So we have to find a way to make it work. And then as far as a question to speakers having to pay to speak. So the policy with conference speakers is that I can pull that up. So ALA pays for non-librarian, non-ALA member speakers a complimentary registration. If you, in your proposal, you had non-librarian speakers and you asked for additional funding to pay for their honorarium, lodging, whatnot, and the professional development committee approved that, you would have that available as well. But that is, that goes for all ALA conferences and division level conferences and whatnot as well. So that's definitely something to reach out to your speakers about. Unfortunately, there's no hybrid meetings available for programs, so we can't, Skype somebody in for a session at this point. I hope that does happen at some point, but not for June 2020. So please let speakers know that if they're consenting to come, that it is, actually coming to conference in Chicago and registering. And if there aren't any other questions, we can sign off. Again, thank you all so much. I know this was kind of a lot of information, but I think sometimes just getting together for a few minutes and going through things kind of helps everyone. So your questions helps everyone. So just keep me posted. And thank you all so much for all that you do. Okay, and you'll hear from me tomorrow. Thanks again, everyone.